Greetings, dear friends, fellow programmers, and those aspiring to be. If you are new here, my name is Marco, and today we will be starting our discussion about the reasons why I think ASP.NET Core is an amazing programming language. Buckle up, because we will be discussing some awesome features that it offers us as developers and makes our lives a lot easier and the entire development process. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Now, before I start my rumbling about the reasons why I love ASP.NET Core so much, I would like to mention and remind you that this is my personal subjective opinion on the topic, and I will just be listing some reasons why I love using it, and for you it might not be the same, but I will try to be as objective as possible while listing some of the great features it offers us. I know I suck at motivational speaking, right? But it is what it is. We are now ready to get started and start our discussion about the reasons why ASP.NET Core is an amazing language. And the first reason being is Visual Studio. Now, aren't we talking about ASP.NET Core, not Visual Studio? Well, when you think about it, Visual Studio is the go-to IDE for working with .NET technology in general, and that includes ASP.NET Core. And me personally, I love Visual Studio so much that I had to put it as #1 reason why I enjoy using ASP.NET Core. Because while I was getting started and learning to code on my own, the main difference between C# and Java was the fact that C# was being used in Visual Studio and Java in Eclipse, and those two IDEs, in my opinion, should not be compared in the same comparison, because they're in entirely different leagues. And what makes Visual Studio so awesome? Well, you can write code in it, all kinds of code, not just some pieces of code, all kinds of code. You can debug, test, deploy to different services directly without the need to do anything other than just click a few buttons. You can write tests, run tests, improve tests, figure out what is wrong with your code. You can jump into certain parts of your code without doing anything problematic in the process with just simple shortcuts. You can also run database migration creation processes. You can manage and update your database from the Visual Studio, and so many different things. It's amazing how many features they managed to put in the Visual Studio and make it work as fast as it does. So I'm sure I missed a whole bunch of features that I do not use so commonly as much as the ones I just mentioned, but basically whatever you need, you can find it inside of it probably. So that is the first reason why I love ASP.NET Core so much. And now we can start the discussion about the actual reasons about ASP.NET Core. And the second point is going to be organization. Me personally, I'm a bit of a fanatic about well-organized, structured code that is very tidy and always easy to find whatever you're looking for. And ASP.NET Core is exactly built on those premises. It just blossoms so well when you are trying to keep your code well organized and tidy. So that I enjoy very much. Of course, you are not prevented to do it in other languages as well, but in ASP.NET Core, you basically get a head start because you are basically pushed towards doing it in that way. And that is the main reason probably why so many enterprise level projects are being built using no other than ASP.NET Core. Of course, on the other hand, I was working and maintaining some terrible projects where the organization was non-existent, but what I'm talking here is when you want to be organized, you can achieve that without any issues while working with ASP.NET Core. Third point is going to be high performance. ASP.NET Core is written so it is lightweight and very flexible, leaving many other frameworks in the dust. when it comes to performance. I mean, whether you're building a small portfolio website or some huge enterprise level project, ASP.NET has got you covered. And what is even greater is the fact that Microsoft is consistently working on improving the performance of all the important features of the language itself. So you are constantly receiving upgrades in the area of performance, which is awesome. Now we can jump to point number 4, which is it has built-in dependency injection implementation. Now, if you're a developer and you already know what dependency injection is, it is a lifesaver. It allows you to be so flexible in your code and to have such a loosely coupled relationship between your interfaces and classes that it's a pure joy to introduce tests, to switch the implementation for certain services, and to do it without breaking a sweat. I love it so much, and I put it so high in the rankings because even though it might not sound like such a huge deal because it's just a pattern that can be implemented yourself on your own, when I was getting started with programming, I started working on ASP.NET MVC, so the previous version to Core. And there, dependency injection was not available out of the box. You had to use some external libraries, you had some configuration files where you would specify which interface should be implemented with certain concrete classes, and that process I did not like. And when I stumbled upon ASP.NET Core, I immediately fell in love with it, and I never looked back since. Point number 5 is going to be cross-platform compatibility. This means that you can work on your application and deploy it on whatever operating system you like. That can be Windows, Linux, or macOS. It's no issue. You can deploy your code and it will run flawlessly. So that's one great thing that I also like to mention. And one awesome trick you can do is you can develop your code on Windows, you can test it on macOS, and you can deploy it on Linux, and everything will work flawlessly. Point number 6, scalability and versatility. Just imagine the following scenario. You are starting your pet project and you have no high hopes about it. And you're just building it to work for you and maybe a couple of friends. Basically, that's how Facebook got started. And then you can see that your application has huge potential and people are liking it so very much. And you need to be very fast and deploy it. And now you need to scale it very quickly and allow it to be accessible for example, millions of users at once. And you just wanted to build it for yourself. With ASP.NET Core, you can do that with ease. It allows you to scale your code both horizontally and vertically almost seamlessly. You will be able to make updates, deploy new versions, extend your cloud services without breaking a sweat, allowing you to be able to focus on the product itself and less worry about the hardware and issues and scalability capabilities of the language you are using. Point number 7 is going to be dedicated to rich ecosystem and libraries. When you think about it, .NET has NuGet, which contains thousands and thousands of libraries that are at your disposal for free. And you can just include those packages in your project and immediately receive all the functionalities that are implemented in those libraries without breaking a sweat. For example, that can be authentication, authorization, machine learning, logging, or whatever you want to build without having to code it yourself. You can just reuse the code somebody already wrote. Within just a few clicks, you can expand the functionality of your application endlessly. So it sounds like a huge potential for speeding up the process of your building. It's like having always expanding toolkit at your disposal. Point number 8 is going to be dedicated to amazing community created around the ASP.NET Core. because whether you're a junior developer without any experience or a seasoned senior developer, you will always get help from other people who maybe already stumbled upon the same issue that is bothering you right now. You can also expect to find millions of videos online dedicated to a whole bunch of different topics about good practices, architectural styles, good coding skills, or whatever it is dedicated to ASP.NET Core. So you have a lot of learning experience. And what I also personally enjoy doing is reading occasionally some reading material on LinkedIn about some certain interesting topics about the language itself. So the options for your growth are basically limitless. Then point number 9 is going to be seamless integration with external services. Now, what I'm talking about here is the fact that ASP.NET Core is 100% compatible with Docker, Kubernetes, and Azure. So you can very seamlessly create a container for your project. You can allow it to be scalable with Kubernetes and also seamlessly deploy it on Azure without spending more than a few minutes. So when you need to create an application very quickly and make it scalable, you have nothing to worry about. And do not get me wrong, it is completely compatible with other providers like AWS and Google services. So you're not limited just to Azure. Just imagine the possibilities. You can leverage the latest and greatest from the tech world to build and scale your application and always be worried only about the way how you will improve the product itself, not having to worry too much about the infrastructure and the way how it's supposed to work under the hood. That part was figured out by somebody else for you. And finally, point number 10 is going to be dedicated to security. I love this point so much because it is so difficult to break through all the security protocols that are implemented in ASP.NET Core that it is silly to compare it to programming languages like PHP, because ASP.NET Core comes with a whole bunch of support for security out of the box. Then you have a lot of options to extend its capabilities when it comes to authentication and authorization with both your own custom implementations or by using some external services and functionalities that already exist, and you can just plug them into your system and sleep well at night knowing that your system is completely secure and safe from malicious attacks. Do not get me wrong, these 10 points are so far away from naming all the great benefits that ASP.NET Core provides us with that I feel silly leaving this number at only 10. But on the other hand, I do not want to waste too much of your time, so I will just name a few more points without explaining them in too much detail. So ASP.NET Core will provide us with things like it unifies MVC and Web API frameworks into a single package. It also provides us with the Razor pages when you need to build something quickly and you do not have too complex of a business logic behind the curtains. Also, when you want to build custom middleware and include it in the pipeline, you can do that. You also have the capability to use middleware pipelines that already exist and contain thousands of pre-built pipeline middlewares at your disposal, and you just need to plug them in. You can use SignalR for real-time data passing from one point to another and creating seamless communication between points. You have Kestrel, a lightweight server which allows you to test your application, deploy it and run it very seamlessly and quickly without wasting too many resources while doing it. You also have very simple configurations. You also have globalization and localization capabilities in your applications, and the list goes on and on. The options and benefits are basically endless. It depends on what are your needs and what you can benefit from. But what I wanted to share with you is the fact that it is an amazing language with an even more amazing ecosystem that surrounds it. And there you have it. Those are some of the reasons why I love ASP.NET Core so much that whenever I learn a new language, I keep coming back to it. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful, because if you did, I would like to kindly invite you to subscribe to the channel, because here I'm trying to share as much valuable information that I feel like is not covered enough on the YouTube, so you do not have to spend too much time and effort finding it on your own. So, thank you for watching and have an amazing day. Happy coding!